Greetings, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Jones. I'm the founder, CEO of the 501c3 not-for-profit Inmates For Change. I'm also your host. Inmates For Change provides reentry services to individuals returning home from incarceration and individuals in the community who are experiencing significant challenges to securing gainful employment, independent housing, and successful progressive reentry into family, community, society, and corporate America. Now, at Inmates For Change, our motto is breaking the bondage of destructive thinking. And I like to add, one mind at a time. Inmates For Change provides services that are similar to a brokerage house. We provide brokerage services to individuals who are in need of education, to those who are affected by substance abuse, shelter residency for the homeless, and referral resources to vocational training programs. Now, one of the other things that we offer with the IFC is a rehabilitative education curriculum workshop initiative entitled Path to Purpose. Path to Purpose is an initiative workshop that are facilitated in a classroom setting that convenes for 90 minutes, 3 days a week, for a duration of 6 to 24 weeks. The participants are introduced to critical thinking skills, interpersonal interaction skills, peaceful conflict resolution strategies, positive self-image enforcement, relationship issues, spiritual connectedness and mindfulness, corrective behavior management, and productive lifestyle change. And now for those of you who are interested in contacting Inmates For Change to supplement your existing program curriculum, let me pull a card up for you so you can get in contact with us. Here we are. Inmates For Change. Our number is 773-746-3075. Let me repeat that. 773-746-3075. That number is open from 10 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Our website, if you decide to take a visit and you like what you see, I promise you, is inmatesforchange.org. The email address is inmatesforchange@gmail.com. Let me just let that sit for a few seconds because I want you to be able to get the information. Most times when I have viewers, they're watching, but they don't have a pen handy, and I don't want to take up too much time just having you look at a blank card. So what I'm going to do right now is get back to what we're talking about here. And what we're talking about is getting into our program for today. And today's program is about the turnaround package. And I'm going to go right to I'm looking on my computer now and trying to get it up here. All right. The turnaround package. Let me take a moment to explain what it is. Individuals returning home from incarceration and those of us who are in the community with felony convictions in our background, what we are strongly recommending at Inmates For Change is that you have a collection of certificates of completion and accomplishments that you've done since your term as well as since you've been home. So when you stand or go into a prospective employer's office, you're able to show a package or evidence of your rehabilitation. And that's where we are with this. Let me get back to here because what I'm finding is as I'm showing you what I'm speaking about with the turnaround package, I'm going to bring one up in a few minutes. But today's show is about individuals who are at the interview. That's what this one will be. You will have gone through whatever calls you needed to make or contacts you needed to develop to get to your interview. One of the first things that we want to do when we're granted an opportunity for an interview is we want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward as we're heading toward the place that we hope to be hired at. And one of the big things that we want to do when we're on our way, I want to be careful about my presentation all the way through. From the time I set foot on the property of the prospective employer until I leave off the property of the prospective employer. And this in turn will be part of what we use for our workshops, and this one that I'm offering by way of the video that you're viewing, is about how to handle yourself when you are giving an opportunity to have an interview. One of the first things I want to speak on is don't approach the prospective place of employment with a cigarette that you need to dispose of. Now, everyone who's coming home from incarceration, and those of us who are in the community, as well as those of us who's never been incarcerated, when you're going toward your prospective employer's door, don't have a cigarette in your mouth that you have to throw out or extinguish somewhere on the site. You don't necessarily want to go in there smelling like burnt cigarettes, and this might be kind of tough for heavy smokers. But the thing is, if your prospective employer or the receptionist is not a smoker, you come off very offensive with this odor of burnt cigarette tobacco on you, and it's so strong that you may get a reaction from them showing like, wow, what is that you're wearing? And that's part of the thing that we don't want to have to happen. So you need to be mindful of when you're approaching your prospective employer that you've had that cigarette 4 or 5 minutes, if not more, before you enter the dwelling of where the place is. Because if you don't, you're going to be smelling foul. I'm going to keep it 100 with you, and that's just where it is. I'm not a smoker. So I can smell smoke on an individual like barbecue at a picnic. So depending on how impressive you want to be when you're going in for this position is where you're going to be when you get there. And once you get there, we want you to also consider being mindful of how you're sitting while you're waiting to be called. One of the things you don't want to be is sitting all slumped and hanging off in the back of the chair like I'm sitting almost out of focus on the frame for the screen that I'm in. I'm doing this intentionally. You want to sit with a posture that's professional, erect, and, like you've got some type of positive self-imagery about yourself. You don't want to seem like this is just something I'm trying to do because they want me to come in here and do it. It's not that way for employers in the real world. They're watching you from the time you set foot onto their property until the time you leave. And this is part of the thing that we're going to be running through today. One of the other pieces on the front end of this is do not start flirting with that receptionist. One of the big problems that I've learned about my demographic, which is ex-offender population and substance abusers in part, as well as the homeless, when they're re-entering back into daily life and productive lifestyle change, hopefully, they seem to carry some of that old stuff with them to a new place where they're going. And because of those creature habits that we have for lifelong types of behavior and reactions and reflexes, they tend to take away some of the polish that we're trying to bring in when we're showing ourselves in front of a total stranger who we're hoping to come on board with at the place of employ or possible employ. So one thing is for sure, most places, this is like 75 to 85% of the places that you will go to will have a nice, cute receptionist lady type on the front end. That welcoming person there is what the image of the company wants to portray as. We've got some real nice people here, and our girl looks good, and we're a congenial place, and we want to give you all the opportunity that you can have at a place like this should you become part of the team. So one of the things younger brothers will have a real problem with is every time they go to see some female in a business setting, or she's looking good and this kind of thing, they tend to go into street corner mode. They want to start talking. And when they start talking, the first thing they want to say is, hey, baby. First of all, you do not know her. That's first. Second, this is not the place or time for that. And then third, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're here for a job or you're trying to hook up? This is part of the stuff that we're talking about when we're doing our turnaround package. Your presentation professionally, coming from an organization that has a connection and a relationship with the prospective employer, it's strictly professional. They have trust in the person or the organization that's referring you that they're sending some of the best of their product out to where we are so that we can consider them for employment. This is what we need to consider, ladies and gentlemen, when we're going to these places. Back in my day, there was a thing called putting your best foot forward. And all the time when I'm going somewhere, more times than not, I'm in a suit. I prefer suits to casual clothes. I'm that type of a tie clip. That's just where I am. And even my wife says stuff about that. We just going to the grocery store. Well, I'll take the tie off, but I may be business casual, may leave the jacket in the car, but I'm in a dress shirt with slacks. I'm not in jeans. I don't wear T-shirts. I don't wear sports insignia and that kind of stuff because that's just not me. I don't get down like that to make it nice and easy for you. That's not what I do. So my presentation is always professional, it's always mature, and it's always a positive self-imagery of confidence that I'm exuding whenever I move in front of someone. Now, let me get back to what we were speaking of. Be mindful of how you're sitting when you're in the reception area waiting for your turn to be called. One of the things that most of us do not realize when we're going into prospective employment and interviewing is that the lady sitting at the front reception area, the receptionist, has your application in hand once you identify yourself to her. Now, when she finds your application or you're going to present one to her, if you start out with this hey baby kind of stuff, and what you doing when you get up out of here, and how you like it working here, all of that stuff is to your demise, I'm going to tell you. What she is trained to do is put a symbol or a number of symbols on your application that only the hiring manager and her understand. Like, let's just say it's just a square on one, a triangle on the other one, and a circle. The square came in here flirting, on his phone, sitting all kind of where it was. The triangle would possibly be something along the lines of what you smelled like, how you presented yourself when you came in. And the circle would be just something that was some other negative that happened while you were waiting. You didn't have a pen. You came back again to ask for another application because you messed this one up. This is the type of thing that we're speaking about. These are symbols that are on your application. Now, what happens is when the hiring manager or the person who does the interview comes out, before he even reads the person's name, he's looking for these symbols that are on the application, if any. And he knows, looking at those symbols, whether or not this interview will produce good fruit. Hear what I'm saying. This is very, very serious for individuals who are trying to have a productive life and get their lives back and get started. One of the things we have to keep in mind is that first, we're a minority. Second, we are convicted felons. And then third, someone else with more skill set, more education possibly, and possibly more experience as well, is also trying to get the same position. So we have to understand that we need to put our best foot forward, and we need to make sure that what we're attempting is something that is along the lines of sound business practices and presentation. Excuse me for just a second. Let me take a swallow of water. Did I mention to you all, do not flirt with the receptionist, male or female? Do not flirt. If that person is of the same ethnicity background that you are, don't go hood trying to find a friend. You're there to find a position. You're not there to try to make friends or be impressive to the receptionist. Just stay professional, stay respectful, be courteous, and watch how you're sitting. One of the other things that I offer inside of my workshop is, what time do you think is the best time to arrive for your interview? Some people say 15 minutes, others say a half an hour. Me personally, I say 90 minutes. And I know people are listening to this or viewing this segment and they're like, what? 90 minutes? That's an hour and a half. Yeah, I know. Sometimes when you get there and you've got your resume already and you're putting your best foot forward and they've got an application for you to fill out and it's probably 3 to 4 pages. where they want to know some significant history about you or delving into your personal and private lives. So you want to make sure that you get there with enough time to completely fill out your application. I'd rather have more time than I need after than need more time than I have. You know, you don't want to hand that application back to the receptionist for the hiring manager to see that you did not finish it. What that shows is that you're not prepared. You're not effective with your time management. You came there seemingly to get a job when we're offering career-oriented positions. And that's what that looks like. So remember, you may not have to go in as early as 90 minutes before your time. But you should give yourself, knowing your own self, time enough to know that if this is going to take me 30 minutes to fill out the application, I probably need some more leeway space in there because I'm going to have to explain something, especially those of us who are coming straight from the community, but we still got this background. In some cases where ex-offenders are returning home from their term, when they get home, they're in a recovery home setting, and there may be some job preparedness classes that they prep these individuals for before they get them ready for workforce development, and then from there on, job referral and that kind of thing. So you want to make sure that you have this application filled out correctly. You want it to be, as much as possible, no blank spaces at all. If it does not apply, N/A. Do not put on there, I don't know. You need to have your phone numbers ready for your references that they're going to ask you for, especially if you've had previous employment. Most of us who have had previous employment and those companies closed down for whatever reason, or we got separated from those companies for whatever reason, then we know that we need to provide a phone number, even if there's no phone. I need to have an address of where I used to work so that they can at least have some type of reference point. One thing I don't know is what the interviewer knows. That is something I don't know. So I have to take into consideration that they know everything. I just have to be right there. They know everything. So I need to know everything. I need to have as much information as I can put down on these applications. I also want to make sure that I'm putting on what my duties were, what my responsibilities were, and any accomplishments that I had on these positions. Not just I worked as a cook. One of the things that I find where my demographic comes through are individuals mostly are asking for warehouse, maintenance, kitchen, and landscaping. Oh, man. You know, there are other positions out there, and with Inmates For Change, the Path to Purpose program, we try to find the king or the queen that's in you. You know, my comment on that all the time is this: how many times do you have to push a broom across a floor before you master it? How many countertops do you need to wipe off before you get a PhD in that? Why aren't you trying to get into the IT field or management training for at least construction management? Why don't you get your GED and your driver's license together so that you can apply for some training programs? Let's say they've got a forklift driver positioning coming through, and it's a 3-day training. But one of the requirements is that you need to have a driver's license to drive a forklift. You know, and I can hear the backlash behind it. Well, I need a driver's license for the forklift, or I'm not going to be driving in the street. It's one of the requirements. That's all. It's just one of the requirements. You know, when you go for an interview, you're expected to look a certain way in that interview. You may be filing or applying for the position of working in the service labor end of the thing, like warehouse help and that kind of thing. You don't come dressed to an interview like that. You know, you bring that stuff in a backpack or another shopping bag or something. Interview clothes should be, and I think they still are, it's been so long since I've tried to be hired from someone, because I've been working for myself since I came home, and I've been home 10 years, is shirt and tie, suit preferably, you know, business attire. They'll tell you that. Even if you don't have experience, they want to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing. One of the other things that I want you guys to know about is this chewing gum. Yes, we all want fresh breath, especially a smoker. But in the interview or at the point of reception and you're chewing gum like a wild horse, that's an absolute no-no. That's going to get one of those symbols put on your application. Trust what I'm telling you. So you need to prepare. If there's some kind of little spray mist thing that you can use for your mouth, or something that before you go into the reception area, you ask maybe security, is it possible that I could use your restroom? Then you may have a little bottle of some little gargle stuff that you can and, take care of what you need to take care of. Make sure that your facial hair or your hairdo is proper, before you come into the reception area, because you don't want to have to get up and leave out again and then come back and sit down and then, I meant to use the bathroom, and then go back out again. You're going to look like some kind of crackhead or some kind of dope fiend, running back and forth. Where is he going now? What are they doing? What are they doing? This is stuff that is extremely serious about your getting your life back. These people have very, very strict criteria about how they feel about their applicants. It's written in stone. When you're going into a place of business, you need to be looking like you're ready for business. One of the other questions we ask with the workshops that I offer is, what time do you think is the best time to interview? Some people like the morning. Some people like the afternoon. Some people like the late day. Okay, now, what is it for? Well, if I go in the morning, I'm going to be one of the brothers who set the pace. Okay. If I go in the midday, then I'm just about half of their day is out the way, and, maybe they've run a few interviews already, and now they can give me plus I need a chance to wake up, because some of us are coming from irregular sleep pattern and that kind of thing. Or the other individual will say, I'd rather have the late afternoon appointment because I want to be the last one that they remember. Here's an answer. I prefer the morning appointment because that's when they start. They start in the morning. I can possibly get any other shift that I would like to apply for or any other shift that's open and they offer it up. But I want to get there when they open, me personally. I would suggest that you might want to be there when they open. You don't want the full day to pass by and still you don't have your application filled out, or you come in there smelling like smoke, or you're trying to hit on the receptionist lady, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Why wouldn't you take a 10 o'clock? We got all these kind of subtle types of challenges and obstacles in front of us. Plus, keep in mind, for the most part, we're convicted felons. We have to find a way to be in front, in our best image possible, to be considered for these positions. Today's topic is the turnaround package. And with the turnaround package, what we want to make sure is that you are showing evidence of rehabilitation. And that's what today's show is going to be about. On one of my last points that I want to put up for an individual who is coming through, especially my returning citizen, you need to smile when you're talking and introducing yourself. Now, I don't want you sitting up there like some silly little goon looking like, hey, yeah, everything I'm talking about is just smile because Jones said it. No, I'm saying when you introduce yourself, smile. Have eye contact. A decent firm handshake, not some bone crushing and not some wimp fish that you put in someone's hand while you're at the point of introduction. I'm speaking of a professional display, which is something that we teach you about when we get you ready for your job preparedness as well as your workforce development course study and training. But how to shake hands, how to shake a lady's hand, how to shake a gentleman's hand, how to present my facial features, we give you an opportunity to practice this stuff as well, And you need to learn how to do it so that it becomes a reflex for you. You don't want to have to be sitting up there trying to think about, am I smiling, when you've been coming home from a place that you've been sitting down for 3 years, 4 years, and smiling is just something that you do not do there. Over the course of 3 years, those muscles have run out of positioning. Think about when you had that sit-up program that you were working, and you've been home for some significant time now, and now you got a gut like mine, Back in the day, I had a washboard, when I came home. But after a couple of months home, Whoo, baby, I needed to buy some bigger clothing. That was just it, and that's just all. My wife was mad, but that's I can dig with that, you know. But I don't like looking all like that myself. So I'm gonna try to stay close to the exercise mat and calisthenics and physical regression, progressive resistance kind of stuff, you know. But just saying that for just something to get past. Now, I'm going to take a moment right now for those of you who are viewing, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to give us a call. If you're considering having your program where you are in need of a supplemental program, Inmates For Change, this is what we do. We supplement existing programs inside of organizations and service organizations, as well as educational facilities that are already involved with programming for their student body, their client base, or their residency. We can be reached at 773-746-3075. That phone is open from 10 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Please visit the website at inmatesforchange.org or shoot me an email, inmatesforchange@gmail.com. Now that we've gotten that taken care of, let me move right on to where we are, and that is back with our turnaround package. Okay, I just realized that I had the contact information up there, and I was still looking at you all. Oh man, I love this job. This is nice. This is real nice. I got you. I'm going. My producer is over there saying, stop stalling and get back to the business. The turnaround package. This is what happens when you get into your point of your interview. And your interview is centered around what kind of experience do you have? Are you working now? And if so, do you plan to move on if we decide to hire you and this kind of thing and whatever else? Now, when they're doing all of this conversation with you, keep in mind, this is possibly at your second interview that you're going to be going into where the turnaround package will be part of what I'm speaking about today. On the turnaround package, the first thing we want to do is we want to watch our verbiage. We want to watch our verbiage because when we go to looking at the verbiage on what's coming out of an individual who is trying to let us know that this guy has been doing something, and instead of saying, I pushed the wrong button, there we go. Instead of saying, while I was down, while I was in the joint, while I was doing a bit, we want to use the terminology, during my term. So now this is in your interview. While I was during my term, such and such stuff happened. Now, when they come with, and they're going to ask you about your criminal convictions and your background. Now, what you want to do, and that's what this show is about. This show is about you being able to overcome that question with documented evidence about rehabilitation. This is hence the turnaround package. Now, one of the things that happens where I go and when I go, and I teach as well, is that when you go into a place of employment, you have what I simply have here, a leather valise or notebook type of device that once I open it, it has evidence of success and completions. When they say, Mr. Jones, we understand that you've got a felony conviction in your background. This is even when you go to a place where the individual knows that you have a background. They want you to explain what you've been doing since you've been home. That got you to their door. And understanding that that's what's going to be coming, the next thing that you may want to be doing is showing them what's called your turnaround package. Here's evidence of me coming into your office, putting this book right up on the interviewer's desk, looking at him just like I'm watching you. And you want to let them know that here I'm about to present are parts of my rehabilitation. Now, for me personally, I've got about 50 of these certificates of completion. I've done a lot of self-improvement, professional development, anything that I heard that was going on in the industry of not only reentry, but rehabilitation by substance abuse, trauma-informed care, mental health, any of those free training seminars that they would have had, I signed up for them. So one of the first things I want to do is when I bring this individual, this packet to the place, I want to let him know that not only am I gainful for your employment opportunity, but I'm also want to show you that I do have proof of my rehabilitation. So let me just start. And these are just a few that I'm going to go over. And one of the first ones is, this is my certificate of completion for serving my term, during my term. Not when I was locked up, not when I was down, not when I did my bit, but back when I was locked up. And one of the things I want to go to from there is I want to show this gentleman also, or the female, whoever's doing the interviewing, another certificate of completion. This one for me in particular is my task completion. This is parole. I successfully completed parole without being rearrested or reincarcerated or violated. This is some of the things that I'm doing. And when we're doing this, we want to place this packet in an order that it sounds natural. I don't want to have to look at this thing every time I'm trying to figure it out and tell the person who I'm speaking to that, okay, this is this, and this. I need to practice this. I need to practice this so that it sounds normal and natural. I need to be sure that I have an inflection in my voice. Here's a certificate that I received from the staff while I was doing my term as a role model of the month. Now, this came from staff, though it was also had the input of individuals who were in the group as well. There were about 25 of us in that group. And to become the role model of the month is what we call, I was down in Sheridan. Sheridan is a rehabilitation type of treatment center that's inside a prison. So when you get to being a role model, you're on your best behavior all the time. This changes upon you where you're becoming more and more involved with what they're offering as opposed to what I think I want to do. And behind that, what we do is we find ourselves getting more and more involved with change inside of ourselves. So I want to be sure I have some inflection in my voice. Role model of the month. Now I can say this like this. Well, I was the role model of the month. Or I can say I was awarded the role model of the month certificate. This is something that the staff offers to inmates who are in the program, and they're showing exceptional types of talents inside the program. That's something to be proud of. I need to let my voice reflect that. The second or the third one, I knew that I needed to take a few modules while I was in there. And I know that while I was during my term, I need to start learning that because I'm going to have to find a way not to be using terms like touchdown, like when I came home, when I returned instead of touchdown. I volunteered for instead of took. I took some classes, I took some computer. No, I volunteered for and I completed these modules that they had for individuals who were interested in part of the program that they were offering. Completed is a word that I want to use instead of the word finished. So I received a certificate of completion for the job attendance tutorial. I also worked through these modules, and there's one that doesn't show on the program, on the screen that I'm showing, but I'm pointing to it. This is a certificate of completion for appearance on the job tutorial. There's another one here for certificate of completion for workplace attitudes and behaviors. These are some of the things that your prospective employer wants to see and hear. He wants to know that where you were, you at least got you some type of training to be presentable in front of them in a business fashion. That's what this thing is. And we have to remember, completed instead of finished, volunteered for instead of took, and returned instead of touchdown. When I returned home from during my term, when I completed my term, or when I completed parole, I started returning to productive lifestyle and living. This is one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing while we're on the line for the interview. The certificate of completion of this Safer Foundation module that was workplace phone skills tutorial. Now let me take a minute and explain something on that. I work in reentry, and I'm also a national certified recovery specialist. So I work along the lines of substance abusers and, in some cases, mental health that's been diagnosed. Not people who are suffering from schizophrenia or something that was a little bit more difficult with the mental illness types of stuff that happens. But these are sometimes individuals that I get. As long as they take their medication, they're okay. So one of the things that happens is in the industry that I work in, we cannot confirm nor deny that an individual is a resident or a client of the organization that they're calling. And some of the people who call on those phones, who are calling our place of business, sound like they're talking to someone they just spoke with that they've been knowing for 45 years. A cousin or a best friend or something. They don't identify themselves. They don't ask who they're speaking with. They don't represent their company, who they're calling from or for. And they just want to start talking. Let me just say this. Good afternoon. Inmates For Change. This is Jones. How may I help you? Yeah, y'all got over there, y'all helping people get jobs? Workplace phone skills. We need that. We need that. There's also literacy on the job where we have to pronunciate these words completely. It's called the King's English. Some people from wherever they're from, because they've been there so long, look at that like talking like white folks. But it's more than that. It's an intelligence that's involved with being able to communicate effectively. Let me get back to where I am with what we're doing here. The piece here that I have, Life Quest Center. This one is a personal one for me. This helped me reprocess my process of thinking. This course changed me from the street gang banging hustler, booster, and drug offender that I was before I took this course. Once I learned this course, then my thinking changed. This is one of the program curriculum that birthed the Path to Purpose rehabilitative education curriculum initiatives. This is one of those. This is very dear to me. And once I returned home, when I came home, I knew that I was going to have some computer experience. This is all the stuff I'm explaining to you right now is possibly the same way you may get comfortable enough to explain it to your interviewer. You want them to see the personality that you have behind the suit. You don't want to be so starch and clinical rigid that what you're saying gets lost in how rigid and perfecting you were. You don't want to get so loose with it that you're sounding like you from right off the block talking to your homie either. You don't want to get there. You want to find a way to incorporate some lightweight humor in your presentation. So one of the courses that I took when I came home, it was an introduction to computers and Word and the internet, because I didn't know much about it at the time. And I have literacy now where I can do a Word document, I can do a presentation, PowerPoint. I'm trying to think of it as I'm looking at it, and it's right in front of me. I got those skills through the Introduction to Computers and Word Processing, or the Word program. There's also a certificate for the 4 weeks of intense job preparedness and readiness training that I took. No, I'm sorry. There I go with it, saying myself what not to say. That I volunteered for and completed successfully. These are evidence of, and documented evidence, I should say, of rehabilitation. Remember how this book portfolio got on top of this desk? The individual who was doing the interviewing, after a little small talk and conversation, reached to me and said, we understand that you have a criminal background. Yes, I've got a criminal background because I was in a different way of thinking back then. Not responding to him, well, I'm a criminal, And getting all ridiculously outside my body about this thing. I'm trying to find gainful employment, so I know I need to be able to present myself in a way that their feeling is acceptable, as well as in some case, kind of entertaining. I want to get their guard down. They got the guard up because they know that I'm a convicted felon, but they also have this thing about how I'm looking when I come in there. One of the things that I know as far as a detriment to becoming hired in gainful employment arena is tattoos on your face. And they say stuff like gang representation and or some other way out kind of stuff. And it doesn't help for you to be presenting yourself in a professional manner where you want to be considered a viable candidate for the position. So let me get right back to what we're looking at right now. And part of what I'm looking at right now is the certificate of completion for the 4-week intensive job readiness training that I completed. I volunteered for it and I completed it. And right behind it, I was presented with a position. I got a position. I'm going to just show it to you right there. Just trust what I'm saying. There's a little card that's right here where the manager of that program or the supervisor of that program gave me some glowing remarks about how I handled myself professionally. We were working with teens at risk who were 17 to 21 years old. And we were teaching them how to interact with total strangers about subject matter like safe sex, teenage pregnancy, substance abuse, teenage drinking, and just those kind of topics. So they would be stopping individuals who were waiting for the bus at designated areas like the subway station that pulls you right up to the stop where the bus comes across it. And we were doing what's called bombs. And it would be 15 to 20 of these young people. And what they were doing was introducing themselves first, respectfully asking the people, can I have a moment of your time? I just want to discuss or bring to your awareness whatever their topic was, So homelessness was one, again, substance abuse. There was another thing about high school dropouts and the employment situation. What we were trying to do was just basically get them an opportunity to start learning how to interact with total strangers and say what they needed to say with confidence. And so behind that, I also got into trying to do some mentoring while I was coming through. I'm still looking for a position and I'm still developing what I have inside me to become a better product on the outside. And I found out about the Black Star Project and their students mentoring and motivation program that they had over there. There was a training piece that they offered, and we went into schools and we spoke in front of classroom size crowds, 30 students in some cases. And we were offering them different pieces of what the subject matter that the Black Star was offering. Mine in particular was why education is very important. And the illustration that I would use is part-time work for full-time bills, and the cost of living against that kind of thing. So you need to be able to put yourself in a position where you can secure gainful employment full-time. And hopefully there may be a cost of living increase along the lines of it. But as you're getting there and starting out, more times than not, we want to try to start where we can and do what we can. And when we start doing what we can, then we'll find out that we're getting better at it and we may want more. And we want to improve on that and start moving forward. So, speaking of moving forward, I have the Path to Purpose program copywritten now. So this is a lot of other stuff that I'm speaking about, but this is part of what my presentation is for my turnaround package. I used to do motivational speaking at the Cook County Jail, and here's a certificate of recognition for the services and the time that I offered there. Here's another one. I'm going to show you all this one nice and easy. There's a letter where my hand is pointing, where the program manager of the Cook County thing that I was at today reporting gave me a glowing recommendation. This is something that you want to put in your turnaround package. Here's a certificate of completion where I volunteered for and completed the Law and Civics Reading and Writing Institute for Urban Males. Now, this was a deep kind of thinking along the lines of critical thinking, analytical thinking, mentoring, servant leader, master teacher, change agent type of stimuli as well as curriculum. This was a tough one, and I felt that I was up to the challenge. And the certificate of completion shows that I was up to the challenge. And I want to thank those people out there for giving me an opportunity, Dr. Stanley Howard, and his team with the Reading Writing Institute for Urban Males. The other piece I have here is my Coaching for Recovery training program. This is what led to me getting my NCRS. Now, again, I'm explaining this to my prospective employer. As it turns out, everything that I have in this book or this portfolio or this turnaround package, as I said at the beginning, is industry related to where I am applying for the position. This is not some construction job I'm trying to get. This is not a position where I'm trying to landscape. It's not that. I wanted to be a case manager when I came home. And as a result of, I started doing and taking courses and seminars and that kind of thing that would help me along the lines of what's involved with service industry as well as social services with reentry, substance abuse, homelessness, and lightweight mental illness. So, getting to the end of all of this stuff and everything else that's in there, I know that sounded like a lot, and it is. And just for my own little vain type of attempt, here are some other certificates that I didn't even mention. I tell you I had about 50. So I just want to let you know. Those of you who saw that little thing that I put up there, let me just show it now. Here's a entrepreneur program that I took earlier that's had me birth a photo button small business. This was something that I knew with me coming home. I'm a 4-time convicted felon. You know, I've been arrested 53 times since my 21st birthday. You wouldn't know it to look at me, but if you had that paper in front of you, you'd know everything. And like when I said at the top of this conversation, where the interviewer says, Mr. Jones, we see that you have a criminal conviction, felony conviction. Well, yes, I do. And I wanted to answer that question with him with some confidence as well as some calmness and let him understand that I need to educate him about what it is that I've been doing. So, I need to convince the interviewer in my inflection that I am worthy for consideration for the position. You know, I can't go in there with this chip on my shoulder. I don't need to be involved with an individual that I'm contentious with. I'm coming to try to do something to help me change my life in a productive manner. At home, there's a significant other, and in some cases, there's kids involved. Plus the rent or the mortgage is due every month. The light bill is due. Those of us who have cell phones, your cell phone bill is due every month. Not to mention I need to move back and forth and get around to different places to take care of different things. So those are transportation costs. Excuse me. This is part of the stuff that we want to make sure that you understand when you're going for these positions. It's not something that they need to give you. It's something you need to earn. You need to earn the respect of the interviewer by way of presenting yourself in not only a professional way, but confident way as well. And someone that based on your inflection in your voice, you're kind of easy to get along with. You're not going to be sitting up there and arguing and being vague about your questions that he's posing or whatever background information you may need to give them. You want to be able to get this thing up. Now, relating back to the turnaround package, you know, it takes some practice to do that. And I'd suggest this: practice, practice, and more practice. Do not just think that you can do this thing and stumble through it like I did. I haven't had to read mine for at least 5 years. And I'm still adding to it. But the thing is, for this particular segment and illustration of what I'm doing, I wanted you to understand this is documented evidence of my rehabilitation. Yes, I'm a 4-time convicted felon. I've been in rehab 6 times. I've been arrested 53 times since my 21st birthday. Now, these are not things that I'm proud of, you know, but it's stuff that's part of my life. I only mention it where I'm in environments where the individuals are asking those direct questions. I don't never tell people where I go, look how I'm looking. And hey, I'm a 4-time convicted felon, right? I've been in rehab 6 times. Yeah. Man, something, I was arrested 53 times. Now, I don't use this conversation everywhere I go. I don't use it in most places I'm in. It's only in the industry, working in front of individuals who have the same type of background and challenges in front of them. They need to see in Jones that it's possible for them to be something better than where they think they are. That's what this thing is. And it takes practice. You cannot just sit around and expect this stuff to fall into your lap. It does not work that way. They call that osmosis. It does not happen like that. You've got to work for it. You got to work for it, and you got to practice, you've got to practice, and you got to practice. One of the other notes, and we're winding down here, one of the other notes that I want to mention for individuals who are searching to secure gainful employment, you need to do your research. You really want to make sure that you know at least a little bit about the company or organization that you're trying to hire on with. So go to their website, do a Google or a Wikipedia search, highlight some stuff that you know that's in there. Because at the end of your interview, whether your interview is good or bad, your interviewer is going to ask, do you have any questions? And the standard question that I feel is an absolute no-no in most cases is, did I get the job? Why would I ask that? Why should you ask that? You need to know by doing your research that the question that you're going to ask this individual is some kind of way industry related or directly related to their company. Like, can you explain whether you guys have a tuition assistance program here? I'd be looking for advancement down the way should I be successful being selected to come on board here and join your team. You want to know about that kind of stuff. You also want to know is what types of shifts are available. And do you guys provide any type of stipend for the lunchtime or something? Or is there something? You want to ask questions that are related to the industry or that particular organization. You don't want to just be wanting to know that I get a job. I'm not coming in here begging for a job. I'm coming here competing for a position. That's what I'm doing. I'm not begging for a job. And so when you look like you're about something, then you might be able to be about something. It's about where you feel that you are and what you want to do with yourself. Let me take a look at what else I'm looking at here. One of the most important things. I know you can't see what I'm showing you, but understand what I'm telling you is absolute truth. You need to give a thank you card to the receptionist to present to the individual who did your interview. And in the card, you want to thank them for the opportunity to interview. That little bitty gesture there sometimes goes a long way along the lines of the individual who's doing the interviews. And they may have had 5 or 7 interviews before you got in there, unless you came in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and they probably had an all day of interviews. And yours is the only one that gave them a card at the end of it for thank you for giving me an opportunity to interview. It adds a little touch of class, and it's something that they can remember you by. Very important, very important. Now, these thank you cards, they've got them at the dollar store. You can get a pack of 10. They're a little larger than a business card. They're about that big. I hope you can see that like an invitation to a party. They're about that size. And, you just present it to the receptionist on your way out. Hey, would you please do me a good favor? Would you present this to Mr. or Mrs. such and such? They know who they are. The thing is that you need to remember the person's name, and you make your way on up out of there. One of the most important things that I want to explain inside of all of this thing that I've said tonight is that when you're going for these positions, please dress in appropriate fitting business attire. Hip-hop swag has its place in hip-hop. Hip-hop swag is not necessarily accepted in corporate America along the lines of day-to-day activities, 9-to-5 administrative stuff. You got a tie on that's not tied, the collar on your shirt is too big, the thing is blousy on you and your pants are hanging all off of you, and you think that somebody needs to give you a position of trust. It's not going to happen that way. Those of you who are out there who do not have suits or dresses and your budget is, ooh baby, so tight that you can't do a whole lot, go to the thrift shop. Go on those 50% off Mondays where you can go in there and get you one or two interview type or apparel or uniforms to wear for your interviews. Some guys I know go out and spend $200 and $300 for a pair of gym shoes, and they don't have a pair of dress shoes in their stack. None. You know, and for me it's just the opposite. I think I've got one pair of jumpers. I think I do. I don't wear them much, so I just, you know, maybe when I'm washing the car, and even at that, I'm gonna pay somebody to do it. Maybe that might be a bad example right there. But in all seriousness, dress in appropriately fitting business attire. Sitting around in stuff that look like you wearing your daddy clothes is not going to get you hired. Presentation is 90% of your interview. Presentation. Just like the first law of attraction is the physical. That, you know, how somebody looks is what draws your eye to them. That's the first law of attraction. So what we want to do in moving forward and trying to get our business, lives, and finances straight, we have to look like we're serious about what we're attempting. We have to. And it's not going to be any other way. For those of you who do not know any other way, then there's a number that I put up earlier. Let me put it back up here one more time because I like to do it. And this is right here. Inmates for Change, 773-746-3075. That phone is open from 10 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. You can view us on the website at inmatesforchange.org, or you can use the email by way of communication at inmatesforchange@gmail.com. One of the things that I possibly did not mention while I was sitting here and hoping that I had covered all of my bases, and I think I did, is I want to express to you individuals who are watching this segment, thank you for taking the time to at least listen in to see what this is. This is Inmates for Change. And we don't have to stay labeled as ex-offenders and persona non gratis and this type of thing. We are kings, ladies and gentlemen. We are queens, ladies and gentlemen. But if we don't get in front of someone who can teach us how to develop that talent that we have hidden inside of us, we'll never be it. We'll never be it. I would like to say to you all again, thank you for tuning in. My name is Jones. It's been a ball. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening as well as the rest of your day. And hopefully we'll see you back at another time. Thanks again.